All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Twitch chat. Hope everyone's having a good day. Welcome back to Let Us Play. I'm your host, Father Evan. It's good to be back here, diving back into Skyrim, more books. We got a dragon problem to take care of first, but then diving back in. Sounded chipper? Hey, Stubbs here. Good to see you. Hopefully sounded chipper because I'm finally getting over my head cold. And Shadow Vision, glad to see you downloaded Skyrim. I am so sorry for the time that you were about to lose because of that. But I also see you're playing Fallout 4, so I think you're ready for it. Before we begin, I want to thank Confuse the Polarity for following the channel. Thank you, Confuse the Polarity. Love that name. I'm trying to come up with a That's My Blank cover band, and I can't come up with anything. But when we last left the world of Skyrim, we had inadvertently created a bit of a dragon problem because we activated plot. Ookla the Mook cover band. Ooh, that's good. Okay. But there we go. There's the jump button. But yeah, we activated the plot. Hey, Anonymous. Thank you for gifting Shadow Vision a tier 1 gift sub. Shadow Vision, give him a big ol' thank you. Hey, Kevin Lee C. Good to see you. Yeah, Skyrim, I mean, for being a 10-year-old game, holds up really well. Probably want... Where's my bow? There we go. Is there supposed to be someone here? Did the game glitch? Elder Scroll games are known to do that. Well, we're up to 11 now. Next step is 30.
Just got grabbed when they tried to make a run for it.
That sounds bad.
Kindred, save us. Here he comes again.
No, I bet that dragon's gone forever. Dragons are never known to return to sites they've destroyed already. Oh, look, a dragon! Rude. Okay, let's get down to ground level. Because we have allies down there. And they can help take some of the hits. We've all taken arrows to the knee, Brayherd Lord. Our days of adventuring are long past us. And that's why you load a new save. I bet you wouldn't be so high and mighty if you came down to the ground on our level. Stopped running from us. Hey, Churro. Good to see you. Also, congratulations. Everyone give Churro Big round of congratulations. He just successfully defended his master's thesis. So I suppose this now makes you Master Churro, which is a great title. Now smack your tail. Oh look, we leveled up. Aha! We have defeated the dragon. Investigate the dragon. No. No, it's immolating. I don't think I want to. No, no, no. I'm not the Dragonborn. You have to find someone else. Use the shout selection of the magic menu to equip your unrelenting force shout. We learn the power word force. Unrelenting force. Okay. Well, first let's level up. Let's choose some more stamina. Now, we do use a lot of destruction spells. That'd be very helpful. Half the magicka. I cannot deny my destiny. Watch me. I'm not going to continue the quest. Here's where we're going. Where's the map? We should go to the town of Solitude. This is a great destination. I'm sure they have lots of books. Today at your mass, the priest said it's the dedication of the Lateran Basilica feast. Yes, today is the feast of the dedication of the Lateran Basilica.
I can't believe it. You're Dragonborn.
I'm not so sure.
Tales, back from when there were still dragons in Skyrim. The Dragonborn would slay dragons and steal their power. That's what you did, isn't it? Absorb the dragon's power.
Look, the jury is still out. Because I don't know what happened to me.
Try to shout. That would prove it. According
Ah.
to the only the Dragonborn can shout without training, the way the dragons do. Dragonborn.
Okay. Shouts. Foos.
What are you talking about? Foos!
Well, there we go. Oy, if there's a Lateran Basilica, is there a Formoran Basilica? That is terrible. Kit, that is just... Ugh.
There aren't any dragons then, idiot. They're just coming back now.
Okay, y'all have a fun time bickering over there about dragons and what you just saw and all that. I have books to go find. Ooh. Boots of Waning Fire. I mean, talent's not exactly the word I would use, but sure, we'll go with that. No. No. Bad dog. Bad dog. I don't think that Lady in Riften is quite so kind. But more importantly, she doesn't have the thing we need. Books. I did not kick that poor doggo. I did not. It attacked me first. It's still weird playing this on a controller after having played it on keyboard for basically like 100 hours before. We're also apparently a kleptomaniac of nature. It's actually more comfortable than I thought it was going to be, but it is definitely different to play on controller. But it's better than stretching my arms out to reach my keyboard. Plus, when we're mostly after books. Ah! More bad dogs. There's more of them. It's time for them to take a nap. It makes sense that it plays well on the Steam Deck. I mean, it is a 10-year-old game. I only took some of their skin. There's a sentence to take out of context. Okay, where are we? Okay, so we're crossing over this mountain path. You can pass through Morthal to get to Solitude. Age isn't just the factor. That's true, but... You know, considering the game had console releases... I mean, heck, it's been released on seemingly every console ever released, including a fridge. Lost Valkig. Well, I found it, so is it just regular Valkig now? Top 3 games released for everything. Number 3, Skyrim. Yeah. Yeah. Minecraft, number 2. What's number 1, Step Zero? Doom. Yeah, that tracks. Hey, did you see they got Doom running on a Lego brick? I think that's impressive. I never told you to take your weapons out. Put them away. That is a sentence, Step Zero, and you're entirely correct, but... I'm just now struck with the line, you scientists were always trying so hard to do what you could, not asking if you should, or ever how it goes from Jurassic Park. The hardest part is modding an HDMI port onto a pregnancy test. Oh, that is a great and terrifying idea. Thank you, Gail. This town looks small and made of wood. Therefore, no books. That is how I decide. Oh, that looks like plot.
What's the Jarl going to do about it? How are we supposed to be safe from our own foes?
I need to go to the stronghold. It's a big, massive city. It has a castle. Castles have books. And now I don't know what we need all these death bells for, but you know what? We're here. Can we catch the dragonfly? Nope, they are way too fast, and I'm too lazy. Oh, wait, we caught one. Red dots. That sounds like danger. We're just going to leave that be. Torchbug thorax. Volgunther. Is this where they make the coffee? There's nothing quite like waking up with a cup of Volgunther in your cup. Okay, so we need to get up there. That is dark. Well, get a second job, because then you'll need the coffee, and you'll need the second job to pay for the coffee. Or switch to tea and keep reusing your tea bags. That says Solitude, which is the town we're headed to, but something tells me that's a, like, dungeon. I don't feel like going to jail today. I don't feel like going to jail any day, but...
Staying safe, I hope.
Yes, officer. No dragon fights here. Let's enter this place during the day, shall we?
If you've come to Solitude to join the Legion, speak to Rika. If not, just keep your nose clean while you're here. You'll end up
Oof. That is rough, Gale.
Hmm? Sorry, I was lost in thought. I'm planning my wedding this evening.
They can't hurt Uncle Rogvir. Tell them he didn't do it.
Positions.
Sorry, you need to go home. Go home and stay there until your mother comes.
Yep, not witnessing an execution today.
You betrayed us!
Get on with it!
Traitor!
We sure are going to hear it all, though.
Rogner,
Pardon
you
me.
helped Ulfric Ulfric Stormcloak escaped the city after he murdered High King Tori.
This place sure has a lot of potatoes. Because that's what nightshade... Potatoes are a form of nightshade, I believe. So I choose to believe that all of these nightshade plants are just potatoes.
Tendrils of thought can wind their way through this realm, but those tendrils...
Yeah, at least you can get a starter home. That is big.
Hello, I'm Gisley, but you can just call me Erica's sister.
Aha, this looks like a place of learning.
Aye, now that's some fine armor. Good old-fashioned steel.
The Blue Palace. We'll only find blue books in there. Speaking of which, I should get the book list out. For a moment, I read this as Chungus egg instead of Charis egg. Kitchen. We've come across the name Pelagius in this before.
I swear to you, unnatural magics are coming from that cave.
Some sort of throne room.
Voices and lights. We need someone to investigate.
Then we will immediately send out legions.
Aha! Books!
Secure the town.
Alduin is real.
We'll always be safe under your eminence.
Don't think that's on the list. Alduin is real, and he ent Akatosh. I don't know what that means. Pension of the Ancestor Moth? I think that's on the list. So for those of you joining, what we're doing is we're role-playing a monk who's on this quest for knowledge, and I have a list here of various books that can be found in Skyrim that are mythological in their nature, and so we're using this as a guide of what books to read and then learning from them. Unfortunately, the Pension of the Ancestor Moth is not on here. Olds of Skyrim. Windhelm Letters. Kolb and the Dragon.
Might be called for.
Urbane's Bestiary. Ice Wraiths.
Of course, you were right.
Olaf and the Dragon we've already read.
I said to his
Wolf Queen. Gentleman's Guide to Whiterun.
Thank you, Jarl Elisif. What about the cave?
A Dance in Fire.
Someone take care of the cave.
Real Baron Zaya. Argonian Account.
You're dismissed.
Aedra and the Daedra. That's a band name. Sorry about that. Children's Annuid. Ah, yes, that is on the list. Let's read it. A Children's Annuid, the Annuid paraphrased. The first ones were brothers, Anu and Padome. They came into the void, and time began. As Anu and Padome wandered the void, the interplay of light and darkness created Nier. Both Anu and Padome were amazed and delighted with her appearance, but she loved Anu, and Padome retreated from them in bitterness. Nier became pregnant, but before she gave birth, Padome returned, professing his love for Nier. She told him that she loved only Anu, and Padome beat her in rage. Ooh, not cool, dude. Anu returned, fought Padome, and cast him outside time. Nier gave birth to creation, but died from her injuries soon after. Anu, grieving, hid himself in the sun and slept. Meanwhile, life sprang up on the 12 worlds of creation and flourished. After many ages, Padme was able to return to time. He saw creation and hated it. He swung his sword, shattering the 12 worlds in their alignment. Anu awoke and fought Padme again. The long and furious battle ended with Anu the victor. He cast aside the body of his brother, who he believed was dead, and attempted to save creation by forming the remnants of the 12 worlds into one, Nirn, the world of Tamriel. As he was doing so, Padme struck him through the chest with one last blow. Anu grappled with his brother and pulled them both outside of time forever. The blood of Padme became the Daedra. The blood of Anu became the stars. The mingled blood both became the Aedra, hence their capacity for good and evil, and their greater affinity for earthly affairs than the Daedra, who have no connection to the creation. On the world of Nirn, all was chaos. The only survivors of the 12 worlds of creation were the Elnofey and the Hist. The Elnofey are the ancestors of Mer and Men. The Hist are the trees of Argonia. Nirn originally was all land, with interspersed seas but no oceans. A large fragment of the Elnofey world landed on Nirn relatively intact, and the Elnofey lived there with the ancestors of the Mer. These Elnofey fortified their borders from the chaos outside, hid their pocket of calm, and attempted to live on as before. Other Elnofey arrived on Nirn, scattered amid the confused jumble of the shattered worlds, wandering and finding each other over the years. Eventually, the wandering Elnofey found the hidden land of old Elnofey, and were amazed and joyful to find their kin living amid the splendor of ages past. The wandering Elnofey expected to be welcomed into the peaceful realm, but the old Elnofey looked on them as degenerates, fallen from their former glory. For whatever reason, war broke out and raged across the whole of Nirn. The old Elnofey retained their ancient power and knowledge, but the Wanderers were more numerous and toughened by their long struggle to survive the Nirn. This war reshaped the face of Nirn, sinking much of the land beneath the oceans and leaving the lands as we know them, Tamriel, Akavir, Atmora, and Yukoda. The old Elnofey realm, although ruined, became Tamriel. The remnants of the Wanderers were left divided on the other 3 continents. Over many years, the Elnofey of Tamriel became the Mer, elves, the Dwemer, the Deep Ones, sometimes called dwarves, the Kimmer, the Changed Ones, who later became the Dunmer, the Dark Cursed Ones, the Dark Elves, the Bosmer, the Green or Forest Ones, the Wood Elves, and the Altmer, the Elder or High Ones, the High Elves. So that's where all the different breakdowns of elves comes in. On the other continents, the wandering Elnofey became men. The Nords of Atmora, the Red Guards of Yokuda, and the Tsetshi of Akavir. The Hist were bystanders in Elnofey War, but most of their realm was destroyed as the war passed over it. A small corner of it survived to become a black marsh in Tamriel. Most of their realm was sunk beneath the sea. Eventually, men returned to Tamriel. The Nords were the first, colonizing the northern coast of Tamriel before recorded history, led by the legendary Ysgramor. The 13th of his line, King Harold, was the first to appear in written history, and so the mythic era ended. That's fascinating. So creation myths have a really cool role in cultures and religions that it really teaches you a lot about the nature of the world, and this one has a lot of tones very similar to, I'd say, Babylonian creation myths, somewhat with Indo-European myths of Vikings. But what's interesting is we have 2 brothers just existing. We have Anu and Padme just kind of existing. And then time begins. But it's kind of implied that they're in the void. Time is something else that they can kind of step into and out of, is the way that Padme was thrown in and out. But the world was created by what Padme gave, or what Nur gave birth to. And how the world comes about tells a lot about how people or a faith understands the nature and purpose of the world. So in this case, the world being created is a level of birth and a level of parental intention and love, but the violence and war that touches it between Anu and Padme sort of reshapes it, which leaves the world with this sense of there will always be war, there will always be conflict, which we see played out in these games, especially in this one, between the people of Skyrim and the Empire. So beyond just creation myths, beyond just being like an explanation of where the world comes from, where people come from, you can really kind of do some extrapolation and almost like an anthropology of like, okay, but what does this teach the people who are holding this about their world? And in this case, we're learning that Tamriel is both the remnant of this beloved place, but is also heavily touched by war. And that the Daedra are not created with some intentional role in relationship to creation, but rather to fight creation in some ways. Not intentionally, but that's what they wind up doing because they're not from creation. So, fascinating. Speaking of the Daedra, there's the Book of the Daedra, The Great War, Charwich Konyinge. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Of Crossed Daggers. I was hoping that might give us a skill point or something. Welcome, glad you enjoyed it. That was a large portion of the idea of doing this. Let's see. Real Baron Zaya, Songs of Return. Ooh, this is one of them. This is on the list. Look at this. We're finding all sorts of things on the list. Let me get a pen out so I can mark these off. But what's also interesting about that creation myth is that was intentionally designed for children in the universe. It was the children's Anuit edited down and paraphrased from the main Anuit, so you don't know how much was cleaned up and edited for kids. Anyway, Songs of Return, Volume 7, The Tale of the Jorvaskr. When at last the rightful claim of Sarthal had been retaken, driving the murderous elves back to their lofty cities, did great Ysgramor, hey, we know that guy, we just learned about him. First, he was the guy who, led the humans back to Tamriel. Turn and let loose the fearsome war cry that echoed across all the oceans. The 500 who yet stood joined in ovation for the victory and lament for their fallen peers. It was said to be heard on the distant and chilling green shores of Atmora, and the ancestors knew that their time had come to cross the seas. Kind of reminding me of Tolkien's creation myth and the crossing of the sea there. Both the sense of leaving, but also to come to Middle-earth. So as the reverberations echoed out and drowned to silence, all looked to Ysgramor, who bore the blessed Werthrod, for his next commandment. With his lungs that bellowed forth the fury of humanity, he bade them to continue their march, that the devious Mer might know their terror they had brought on themselves with their trickery. Glad we found the other book to explain what Mer are and who Ysgramor is. Go forth, he roared, into the belly of this new land. Drive the wretched from their palaces of idleness. Oblige them to squalor and toil, that they would see their betrayals as the all sin against our kind. Give no quarter, show no kindness, for they would not give nor show you the same. Our great forebear gave this order as he did not yet understand the prophecy of the twin snakes, that he would be fated to die before seeing the true destiny of his line. Hearing this, the circle of captains gathered, each their crews unto themselves from here. They decreed, We will go forth. Let each ship's band make its own way, seeking their fates to the open sun. A night spent in feasting, the oath of companions was sworn anew with each of the 500. So they named their count in honor of the shields that were broken at Sarthal, swearing to act as shield brother and shield sister to any of the Atmoran line, were their fates to ever again entwine. As the red hands of dawn stretched from the east, so broke the 500 companions of Ysgramor, setting about their journeys, sailing now across the land with waves of stone and crests of trees flowing under their footed hulls. The first to break from the grounded fleet was the crew of Jorvaskr, who had been formed of Ysgramor's closest friend. Their captain was known as Jeek the River, so called by the Harbinger himself from their youth's past in glory. When assembling their glistening hull, he sought out laborers of Menro and Manwe, who now bore their native timbers across this new land of Tamriel. Among the fiercest were Tisnal, who were twice named, and Tur, his twin and shield brother, whose girth was never spoken of to his face. He's chunky. There were others, too, in their band. Mexim the Wander, Brunel, who fought with his offhand, and Just the Smiler. These and others were sworn to Yeek, and they pushed forth into the shadows where yet the sun had not reached. Southwards they went, by beast and by foot. Elves they found, though none remained to tell of what those battles entailed. The number of the Jorvaskr never faltered, so shrewd were they in battle, with minds as sharp as their blades. Once, as the sun beat from its high home, yonder the tiny, the one who ran ahead, came over the hill to tell what was seen amidst a vast plain. His eyes had met the monument of a bird, whose eyes and beak were opened in flame. When his brothers and sisters crested the hill, they too saw its glory, but they were afraid, for no elven settlement could be seen to the horizon. But this is not seemly, said Clue, who went by Lot when hiding his face. Is it not wide land fit for harvest? Why have not the elves, vile to their core, seen to exploit and tame it? They asked for their elven captives, for they had many, what they found unfit about these plains. Yet even the captives who still bore their tongues could say nothing of the valley. They looked with fear at the winged colossus, and from their babblings did the warriors of the Jorvaskr learn that it was older than even the elves themselves, of those who wrought it solid with its mother's stone. Nothing could be said, but it was known to drive a magic almost as old as Nirn itself, some remnant of the gods' effort to render a paradise in Mundus before the shattering of Lorkhan. This first of many, this crew of Jorvaskr, heathens and ancestors to us all, feared no stories or gods. Indeed, if there was something the elves feared, they would have it for their own. Thus began the labors once more of Menro and Manwe, whose eager hands again laid to the Atmoran wood which had borne them all across the sea. And what was their ship became their shelter, as this valley became their purview, until the end of all their days. Thus began the building of the great cities, circled by the running of the White River, as brought forth by these beloved Ysgramor, yet of 22 of the glorious 500 companions. We have indeed found books. We are in Stronghold. And there are a lot of twins in Creation Myths, Kit. There are indeed. This one's fascinating, because what we just learned about the previous book is that Ysgramor was the human who led... Oh, sorry, Solitude. Solitude. I don't know what I said. We learned that Ysgramor was the human who led humans out of their initial realm to Tamriel, but yet it wasn't until like his 14th generation down was the first recorded person. And I bring that up because this means that this is written later, so this represents an oral history being handed down and likely therefore has a lot of embellishments, particularly because it was written by humans in war against the elves. So we have to take what that says with a grain of salt. Yungol and the Sea Ghosts. Rotida. Well, let me see if Yungol's on the list first. So today, as mentioned previously, is in fact the feast day of the founding of the Basilica of the Lateran. Baron Zaya, Cabin in the Woods, Thief of Virtue, Amulet of Kings. And the Lateran is kind of an interesting basilica. It was actually originally built by Constantine, because when Christianity was legalized, he wanted to... Oh, that looks like a quest. Biography of the Wolf Queen. Anyway, it was originally... Constantine approached the Pope at the time. It was like, hey, I want y'all to have a church. What do you want? Do you want a temple or do you want a basilica? And the Pope chose a basilica because basilicas were a place of meeting and gathering, whereas temples in Roman thought were a place you came, you dropped off your sacrificial offering, and you left. So the original Basilica of the Lateran was dedicated... It's named Lateran because it's on the Lateran Hill, because Rome has 7 hills. But it was originally dedicated to Christ the Redeemer. So that was who... But it later picked up the name John, and then it picked up the name John again at another point. One being John the Baptist, the other being John the Evangelist. But anyway, the reason it's important is it's the seat of the Pope. It's symbolic of our unity as Catholics, that we have a place of this work of this communal action of worship to come together. It's also just a really pretty church. I recommend going. Yeah, Roman temples, be brief, be gone. And the Pope was like, no, we want people to be around for longer. We'll take a basilica, please. But yeah, it's a great symbol of unity in life and worship as Catholics, as a community across the world, as that is the seat of the Pope. So it's kind of, he is the visible sign of communion of all peoples. Well mentioned, Brayherd Lord. Yep. Constantine, upon legalizing Christianity, even though he didn't... Ooh, Bard's College, I bet they have books. Even though he did not accept Christianity personally until much later in his life, he really understood a lot about it and understood the important role it could play in unifying the empire. Well, the bards eat well, that's for darn sure.
Now back to your practice.
Is there an upper area of the Bards College, or is this it? They live in barracks. You thought your dorm room in college was bad. I really thought bards might have books. Oh, stairs. Here we go. This might help.
Welcome to the Bard's College. I'm the headmaster here. How may I help you?
I guess I'm looking to apply
Always a
because I don't
pleasure
have
to
any
meet a
other option.
prospective bard. You should be aware that Many apply, but we accept very few people.
I bet she'll accept me. I'm the
When possible,
Dragonborn.
we ask applicants to
I mean-
perform tasks the college needs completed. In this case, I do have a task befitting an aspiring bard. Elisif has forbidden the burning of King Olaf, a festival put on by the Bard's College. We need to change her mind. To convince her, I want to read King Olaf's verse, a part of the Poetic Edda, the living history of Skyrim. Unfortunately, the verse was lost.
See, he
long
wants a
ago.
book.
Yes, according to Giraud, our history's keeper, the portion of the Edda dealing with King Olaf might still exist in Dead Man's Respite. I need you to retrieve the poem. I wish you luck.
Well, that actually sounds like something we would do.
Hello, yes. I'm the Dean of History and scribe work when I can find some quiet time.
I have faith that being a
But
bard
yes,
with
look
King
at this
Olaf's verse.
books. You know, they...
Pardon me, but I
Hey,
trust you've
Petoni.
been working
Welcome,
on your
glad you're
poem
here.
on the classical heroes
Thank-
of Skyrim, yes? Patience, Ildi. We study the heroes of the past so we can have a better understanding of the heroes of today and tomorrow.
Ethereum Wars, Immortal Blood, Songs of Pelennor. This is what I'd expect at the Bard's College. Goblets. Aha, more books. Life of Uriel Septim, Songs of Pelennor. A lot of history, which makes sense. And also, the Tiangol and the Sea Ghost is existing both above and below the shelf, which is terrifying. The Dunmer, the Dwemer, Mysterious Akaver, Olaf and the Dragon, which I'm pretty sure we've read already. No, it's yeah, we actually get that a lot because Pauline sisters, Paulist fathers. We are completely separate entities within the church. We have different founders. Very similar spiritualities. We're both driven by the example of St. Paul to evangelize. We both do a lot with books. We have Paulist Press, which is the biggest Catholic publisher in North America, and other media works such as this. But it's, yeah, exactly. It's like Pauline, Paulist, they're like so similar that like we get confused all the time. And we love the Pauline sisters. We actually do work with them on things, but we have different founders and slightly different spiritualities. Killing before you're killed. That, yeah, we're even founded around the same time, but it gets more confusing because within the Pauline family, yeah, no, Paulist Press, that is us. Within the Pauline sisters family, there are Pauline fathers as well, and in some nations they call themselves Paulists, which gets extra confusing. So I actually once got in an argument with a bishop at a conference, and I didn't know he was a bishop at the time. That he was trying to convince me that there were Paulists in his diocese in India, and it's like,
Pardon me,
no,
but I trust
sorry,
you've been working on your poem on
we
the
don't have any
classical
church in
heroes.
India.
Yes. I'm sure it will be fine. Just don't be late.
Yeah, the church is great at that. Alduin Akatosh dichotomy. Scourge of the Great Quarter, Nords of Skyrim, Kiss Sweet Mother. It is a religious order, so we are technically we're what's known as a Society of Apostolic Life of Pontifical Rite. But yep, we were founded in 1858 in New York City. Antecedents of Dwemer Law, Vernacus and Boer
But I
lore.
trust you've been working on your poem on the classical heroes of Skyrim, yes?
Well, none
I'm
of those
sure it
books
will
are
be
ones we're
fine.
looking for.
Just don't be late.
So if you do exclamation mark Paulists, it will pull up a link to the Wikipedia, which is a pretty good article. Outlining our history, talking about our founder, Isaac Hecker. Maybe it's Paulist Fathers. I forget. It should be down below where it says chat commands. Nagasta Kavada Kavakis. Oh, I can't read any of this. There we go. It's Paulist Fathers. I couldn't remember. I knew it was one of those.
Pardon me, but I trust you've been working on your poem on the classical heroes of Skyrim, yes?
Nords Arise,
Sure,
Adra
we'll
and
be fine.
Daedra,
Just don't
Yingol
be
and the
late.
Sea Ghosts, Mixed Unit Tactics, Wild Elves, Legend of the Red Eagle we've already read. Gods in Worship. Did we read this? Yes, we did read this. Song of Return, Volume 56. Ah, we actually need to read this. The final tale of Creon. The songs of return are eternal and numerous. For those first 500, those companions of Ysgramor, who cleared the way for mankind's rightful habitation, burned with a fire not seen since those days long past. Each ship carried a crew that performed... Oh, wrong button. I was trying to mark off on our list. Each ship carried a crew that performed legendary feats that could feed the pride of any nation for 1,000 years. And during this time, the broadening scores of companions wandered the land, bringing the light of proper gods to the heathen land of elves and beasts. They were but mortal, through and in time, all would taste the glories of Sovngarde. It was one of the uncounted years after the retaking of Sarthal that the crew of the Creon was declaring their fortunes in the eastern lands near the Red Mountain. They were encamped, surrounded by bodies of murderous elves who had attempted to make them believe there held peace in their hearts. The shrewd Rorlock, who was Creon's captain, though and would show no quarter to the liars of the Southlands, as had been commanded by his lord Ysgramor, harbinger of us all. It was in this state of carousing that they were approached by a young and breathless messenger of their sister crew from the Kal Kaz. The boy, Askir, as his name is now sung, had unimaginable distance of breakneck speed from the blood-stained fields of the clouded sun to deliver the news to all who would hear. When he reached their camp, he bellowed a great sob before relieving his heart with the news that the mighty Ysgramor had breathed his last. Oh no! Aeskir continued his swift run to inform the other crews as quickly as they could be found, for there were many now crawling the land, rendering our legacy from their deeds. And the camp of Creon descended into a mourning of the most forlorn sort. Among these fires sat the bravest men and fiercest women who have ever graced the dirt of this land. And they were brought low by such a notion. While we in the day shine know only Ysgramor's glory as it is, gleams through history, these companions knew his might with their own eyes, and such a loss hangs so heavily on the heart that mere words cannot express the altering of their world. For indeed, the stories tell that Rorlock, the most battle-hardened and unflinching of all captains, did collapse with grief, and never lifted again his mighty axe. And all around Tamriel, as the news spread as a dark cloud washes from the horizon to horizon, did brilliant lights go out in silent honor of their fallen general and war leader. So ended the period of the return, and the original glories of the 500 companions of Ysgramor, harbingers of us all. These are great tales. And really give a sense of the way they see them, that human beings in this world really do see Tamriel as their land. You know, because it's that sense of the return. It was this land that they were created for, that fell, was destroyed, that they were separated from, and now are working to reclaim. Horker attacks. Oh, look at that Horker. Giant walrus. Which gives a great sense of understanding of how humans understand themselves in the world of Tamriel.
Pardon me.
I have
but
faith
I
that
trust
you'll
you've been working
return
on your
with King
poem
Olaf's
on the
verse.
classical heroes.
I'm Dean of Lute at the Bard's
I'm sure
College,
it will be
and no,
fine.
I don't
Just don't
give
be
private
Bard's
lessons.
College is hopping. There are lots of people here. Ooh, more books. Charwich of Kuniga, Argonian Account, Book of Daedra. All the lore in the games is precisely the sort of thing you gloss over. I do too normally, but this was very kind of intentionally like, hey, what if we explore this as like role-playing as a monk and like a scholar looking to explore this. The cake and the diamond. I don't think you want a diamond in your cake. Song of Return, Volume 56, which you just read. Of Fiori and Holgear. Intelm Letters, Pension of Ancestor Mouse, First Thult. Songs of Return, Volume 2. We have not done that. We have found 3 of the 5 Songs of Return that are in this. Yeah, it's been a really interesting playthrough. I mean, I've played a lot of Skyrim before, so it's really kind of interesting to kind of pump the brakes and pay attention more to the world as it's created, and not just to the plot as it unfolds. Our great lord Ysgramor, the harbinger of us all, did then send forth his 2 beloved sons, with him the only 2 other survivors of the brutalities of Sarthal, to seek out the bravest warriors of the land and mount the great return. Yingal and Yilgar, they were called, and they were known among Atmora as fine warriors with bright eyes and dawning futures. Yingol the Elder was the brave strategist, bringing his learnings to bear on the battlefield that his enemies would be defeated before they had even known battle had begun. Yilgar the Younger was possessed of an unwavering spirit that drove his singular prowess to overwhelming feats in war. Together the mind and the arm, they were capable of sowing a destruction most thorough and glorious to any foe who stood before them. Before they parted ways to gather their crews, the 2 clasped arms and necks in the old fashion, and laughed at the heavens for their stories to come. Young Yilgar then took the massive shipyards of Ylkurfik at the southern point and commissioned 2 ships for himself and his brother. He would command the Darumzu and his brother the Harak, thus carrying the names of the 2 favored stars of their heavens. The shipmaker spirits had been suitably filled by Ysgramor's tales of the savage elves, and they set about to birth ships that befit their noble homeland. Arrangements having been made, Yilgar set forth to the academies of honoring soldiers, seeking out his most trusted friends and advisors to join him on the adventure of the return. By now, the stories of the new land to the south were spreading before him, and mere emergence of his presence was enough to cause the finest warriors to lay down their present undertakings and follow him. So was he able to call his side to the great shield sisters Froa and Grosta, who thought and spoke as one, and they brought with them the wise war teacher Adrimpk. It's a hard one, Adrimpk, who first taught them to dance among the blades. She, in turn, mustered all of the students at her command, whose names were not yet made, but some of whom would one day be known. Hermesker, who threw his shield, Urlach, who breathed fire, Romph, the greater, Merkilian Romph, and the far-sighted Uch, who would see the first of many dawns. On the day of final passage, when the many-oared fleet would at last see the distant green summers of Atmora, the brothers were near in their father's wake as freshly joined 500 would eagerly press onward towards Tamriel. Yilgar could see his well-minded brothers smiling and afar across the waves, and they shouted war cries to each other, longing for the soon day when their assembled crews would draw the treacherous elf blood into the ground, which they would now claim for their own rights. But Kyne's ministrations are not to be taken lightly, and though her blessing gave wind to drive those brave sailors to their destiny, so too did her mighty tears fall to drive them apart. When the storm of separation first arose, young Ylgar had no fear, for his crew was strong and able, and their ship drove true through the forest of swells as though pulled by a rope of fate. When the skies cleared and Ylgar glimpsed again with his new eyes the land of his past and future home, he knew his brother's vessel was not within his horizon. The Durumzu, arriving late, drew forth onto the sands, and Ylgar rushed to his father to seek word of his brother. The great Ysgramor, harbinger of us all, wept for his lost son, and sought comfort in the arms of his only remaining joy. The crew of the Horak became the first deaths among the 500, and Ylgar so enraged with his love for his brother that his crew would soon be counted as first among many noble and honored names in the companions. Oof. It's a rough way to start. Ylkarfuk is a form of fanfiction. Yeah, I think it's song. I think it's a fanfiction song. Frontier Conquest, the sequel to Frontier Psychiatrist. It's not as good, though. Darkest Darkness, Scourge of the Great Quarter, Chance's Folly. Hey, here's another Song of Return. This is great. This is 3 of 5. One more and we've found them all. The Second Tale of Ylgrimet. When that final battle at the Barren Pass was completed and the melting snow carried elf blood back to the sea, the crew of Kalkaz, the Sadon Wraith, and the most exalted crew of the Lord's ship, the Ylgrimet, at last parted ways, never to join shields again. They drew apart in that form which was not a loss, but a gain in knowing one's heart can be carried in the chests of others. I'm sorry, did you just steal that line from Kingdom Hearts? So great was the love that those first of the 500 had for each other, and especially for Ysgramor, harbinger of us all. They pressed eastward, seeking the sea, when they came upon the Barrow of Yingal, the mighty Ysgramor's son, who had fallen to the whims of kine rather than the treachery of elves. Our Lord had not expected to lay eyes upon it again so soon, and his grief flowed anew at the sight of it, as a reopened wound will bleed as it did when first opened. His eyes turned to the south, where a river met the sea, and decreed that he and the crew of Ylgrimet create a great city, a monument to the glories of mankind, that from his place he might always look upon the hill of his dear son's resting place, and feel his line would know peace in this new home that was never known in Atmora. The elven captives were set to work, bringing forth stone to build in their conqueror's fashion. As many elves died in the building of the city had the crew of the Ylgrimet slain while on the way to its site, and Ysgramor drove the wretches evermore to build higher, to lay claim to the river, so that none might pass into the interior of this land without first showing due respect to its rightful claimant. Thus was the great bridge constructed, forever striding the river that no elf might sneak through to avenge his devious cousins. As the bridge was built long, so too was the palace built high, spires reaching to the sky to show dominion, even over the very winds that brought forth such a grief. In the deep hollows beneath the city, a great tomb was prepared for the day that Lord Ysgramor, harbinger to us all, would be called home to glory in Sovngarde. But as we know, he chose instead to be buried on the shore, facing towards Atmora, that though his heart lived and died in this new land, it would forever yearn for the beauties of still green Atmora before the freezing took it. Thus was founding of Windhelm, the city of kings, though her history is long and her glories did not end with her founder. Yeah, we can't escape Kingdom Hearts. Certainly not in this stream. I have more Kingdom Hearts planned. As soon as we finish Ys 8, we're back to Kingdom Hearts. Now, that's a cool maze. That's actually a meditation labyrinth because it fully loops in on itself. That's really pretty. Always, always Kingdom Hearts. Enter twice, exit only once. Alteration will lead you to destruction, only illustrate. Illusion shows the way to restoration. Conjure not, but be conjured instead. I feel like that has something to do with a magical spell. Dear books, will you please stop glitching through the shelves? My goodness. Code of Malakath. Well, we found the instruments room. One can never escape Kingdom Hearts on the internet. And the more you dislike it, the more it will show up. Yeah, I know I just asked Skyrim to stop glitching. I just asked... Look. If inanimate objects will just stop glitching with their collision physics and flying through things and off of each other for no reason, that would be great. Is Pirate King on here? Would it be Skyrim? I mean, would it be a Bethesda game? It's not a bug, it's a feature. Oof. Didn't EA say something about that? Say something like that about one of their games once? No, I don't feel like bringing an unusual gem to the appraiser. If anything, probably finding King Olaf's verse. I have not tried Starfield yet. Mostly because I'm afraid to. Because I know how much time I have sunk into other Bethesda games, and a space exploring one just sounds like I'll get more sucked in. There are a lot of games I want to play, but I choose not to because I only have so much time. Your computer can run it well. That's the rough part about gaming, is if your computer doesn't run it, it's like, ugh. Do I want to invest in more of a computer? You like the dish-ownered ones? Hall of the Dead. Does the Hall of the Dead have books? Well, a skull is dead, that's for sure. Again, with this diamond cake. Imagine just finding someone in your house, just rifling through your books, and then leaving. Like, not stealing them, but just, like, coming up into your bedroom while you're sleeping, like, going through your bookshelf, reading a book, putting it back, and leaving. That's essentially what our character does. Nope. Nope. Nope, not gonna disturb the dead today. You'd best be putting those books back in right order. Watch me. I'm gonna put them in upside down.
The finest fish here.
Hello, Solana.
Caught daily.
Would you like an apple?
Spiced
Free of
wine,
charge for
the
you.
taste of home and heart.
That's generous, Yellow. But I am.
Who are you announcing all of this? Is it just to me? Like, there's no one else really in the market. There's your door. Bits and pieces. Well, we need some things
Got something
to sell.
just about everybody in here. Give a holler if you have any questions.
To that end, you can learn a lot about a person by their bookshelf. I ask, which bookshelf?
Fear and
I
safety
have
here just bu- some may call
so
us
many.
junk. Me?
Because I have that
I call them
bookshelf.
treasures.
It doesn't have a ton of books on it, but it has some. But then I have a bookshelf in my room, bookshelf, multiple bookshelves in my office, or my parish office. I like books. I don't need 4 copies of The Doors to Oblivion. Okay, you're out of money.
Back to bits and pieces anytime.
Oh yeah, and I added another bookshelf to my office. Although it does have books on it, but it's mostly for other stuff. It's mostly vertical storage. I think we're allowed a couple of bookshelves. That's good because I certainly have them.
Oh, let me just drop. Breeches, gowns, clothes for any occasion, really.
Is that all you're willing to buy for me? Okay. Apron. Ooh, blue robes. We could actually use those. Take a cowl. Wait. Monk robes, alright. Because when we're not running around, I thought it would be nice to actually, look the part
Finally.
of a monk. Ignore the mace.
I can help with purchases.
But we're not out and about in the
My sister. She's
open
the one who
world.
Gets on with people. It's her one virtue, I think.
Spare some gold for a veteran?
Is that you?
Can you spare a septum?
Yes.
Oh,
Have some gold.
Thank you. Divines bless your kind heart.
Yeah, gift of charity. I was just doing something nice.
Staying safe, I hope.
Ah. Hello. Y'all got anything to read in this inn? Good fortune numbers in the ledger. Don't know why we'd want to do that, but we could. Shazar and the Divines. by Faustilius Junius, sub-curator of ancient theology and paleonumerology, Imperial Library. That is a lot. Let's read it. It's not on the list, but we'll read it because it has the word theology in the author's title. The position Shazar enjoys Cyrodiilic worship, if often misconstrued. I feel like I'm missing something in that sentence. The position Shazar enjoys in Cyrodiilic worship, if often misconstrued. I think that's an is. I don't think that's supposed to be an F. I think that's supposed to be an S. He and 1,000 other deities have sizable cults in the imperial city. Shazar is especially venerated in the Colovian West, though he is called Shor there, as the West kings are resolutely and religiously Nordic. The haziness of Shazar's relationship to the divines, he is often called their missing sibling, begins with Saint Alessia, the so-called slave queen of Cyrodiil, the founder figure of the original Cyrodiilic Empire. In the earliest Syro-Nordic stories of the Heartland, Shazar fought against the Aelids, the Heartland High Elves, on mankind's behalf. Then, for some unknown reason, he vanishes from the stage, presumably to help other humans elsewhere, and without his leadership, the Aelids conquer the humans and enslave them. This slavery lasts for generations. The isolated humans eventually begin to venerate the pantheon of their masters, or at least assimilate so much of high elven religious practices into their native traditions that the two become indistinguishable. In First Era 242, under the leadership of Alessia, her demigod lover, Morahouse, Breath of Kine, and the infamous Pelennal Whitestrake, the Cyrodiilic humans revolt. When Skyrim lends its armies to the slave queen of the south, the revolution succeeds. The Aelid hegemonies are quickly overthrown. Shortly thereafter, White Gold Tower is captured by Alessia's forces, and she promptly declares herself the first empress of Cyrodiil. Part of the package meant that she had to become the high priestess of Akatosh as well. Akatosh was an ancient Aldmeri god, and Alessia's subjects were as yet unwilling to renounce their worship of the elven pantheon. She found herself in a very sensitive political situation. She needed to keep the Nords as her allies, but they were, at that time, fiercely opposed to any adoration of elven deities. On the other hand, she could not force her subjects to revert back to the Nordic pantheon for fear of another revolution. Therefore, concessions were made, and Empress Alessia instituted a new religion, the Eight Divines, an elegant, well-researched synthesis of both pantheons, Nordic and Aldmeri. Shazar, as a result, had to change. He could no longer be the bloodthirsty anti-Aldmer warlord of old. He could not disappear altogether either, or the Nords would have to withdraw their support of her rule. In the end, he had become the spirit behind all human undertaking. Even though this was merely a thinly disguised, watered-down version of Shor, it was good enough for the Nords. As for why Tiber Septim has not attempted to revitalize Shazar during his wars against the Aldmeri dominion, we can only speculate that at this time, memories of the Alessian Order's follies, the Dragon Break, the War of Righteousness, the defeated Galumbria Moors, would only damage his campaign for the imperial crown. Okay, so that was kind of interesting. A sense in which how the people of the world understand their gods and syncretic syntheses, which we see all the time in our own human history as well.
Business with you. Leave me.
If you need potions, head over to Angeline's Aromatics.
What's up this tower? An invisible wall. Because there's actually a loading zone that But look at that view. That is pretty. Is this supposed to be Castle Door, or is the castle named Dower?
I'm telling you, Ulfric's planning an attack on Whiterun.
He'd be insane to try. He doesn't have the men.
That's not what my scouts report, sir.
Keep an
Every
eye out.
day more join his cause. Riften, Dawnstar, and Winterhold support him.
Wabbajack.
It's not a cause. It's a rebellion.
Call it whatever you like, General. The man's going to try to take Whiterun.
City of Stone.
Balgruuf
History of the Empire,
refuses the
Cross
Legion's
Daggers,
right to
Baron's
garrison
Eye,
troops in the
Shigaroth,
city. On the other
which we
hand,
read last
also
time. It was
refuses to
messed up.
acknowledge Ulfric's claim.
Well, if he wants to stand outside the protection of the Empire, fine. Let Ulfric pillage his city.
General,
You people and your damn Jarls.
sir, you can't.
I mostly deal with petty thievery and drunken brawls. Been too long since we've had a good bandit raid.
Okay, I think we've gotten all the books we can out of Solitude for now. So why don't we head south to Falconwreath? Or we could head west, east, west. I know my directions. Southwest. There's a city there. Yeah, I think for this I tend towards
I used to be an
story-rich
adventurer like
games.
you.
For
Narrow in the knee.
streaming. Less so on Retro Tuesdays, though. Personally, though, I don't know. I enjoy a game with a good story, but I also enjoy just a good, like, Mario Wonder style platformer, you know? I do not play Mario games for the plot. So this project has celebrated its 1-year anniversary, just last month. So, where has the time gone? Mario Wonder is so good. Super fluid, super fun. We should probably put our armor back on if we're going to go back out into the wilds. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a good 1 year. Excited to continue to see where this project and ministry grows. So, hey, Squirrelich, good to see you. Yeah, Catholic Twitch is a pretty small world. I was hanging out in K Maximilian's chat the other day, and we got sent. He started raiding someone else whose name escapes me. What was that? Anyway, and It's Eugen was in there. And then Churro's a good regular. He's lurking right now because he's doing some work, but Churro hangs out here as well. And
Greybeards have summoned the Dragonborn to High Rothgar.
I did a fun
Hundreds of years.
joint stream with him a couple weeks ago. We're looking forward to doing another in the future. Yeah, Churro is great. And shout outs to Churro. He just passed his master's thesis defense. So let's take a look at our map. His field, it's engineering, and he's technically done with it. He's completed it, so let's head to Markov. Markarth. I didn't know Catholic Answers even had a Twitch. That's cool. Ah! In terms of priest, there's also Father Bill Kessler. He does a lot of like mech warrior and elite dangerous. Yeah, Father Bill's a nice chill dude. I like hanging out in his chat. Of course, he also streams very early in the morning, so I'm usually not able to watch him, but... You know, if the horrible monsters that exist in this world weren't here, I would thoroughly enjoy just taking a walk through Skyrim. Reminds me a lot of home. Yeah, the idea behind... oh! Shoot! Okay, you initiated the fight, my dude. The idea behind sort of Spirituality Thursdays, looking at games that either have something spiritual within them as like a plot element. So in this case, sort of the books. Hello. Healing is not working for some reason. Sorry, I'll get back to the question. I just don't want to die to a random. Not my attacks are not working in general now. That is not how you use a shield. Anyway, so yeah, to look at games that like have something spiritual in their story or their elements. So like we've done Baba Is You is one of them. Well, as a monk, role-playing a monk, there are certain rules. And in this case, I'm being forced to become a very strong pacifist. But anyway, yeah, and also to look at Christian games. So like the last game we played on Thursday was Catechumen, wherein you play as a catechumen in the early church. and you fight demons with a sword that shoots lasers. It's actually better than it sounds, I'm not gonna lie. Okay, I'm gonna try saving and loading. But we've looked at, there's a game called, or a radio series called Adventures in Odyssey. It has 3 games. We looked at those. And we have I have a whole list of Christian video games. So yeah, the idea of Spirituality Thursday is like looking at games that have a spiritual element or focus, be it explicitly Christian or something like this where it's like, you know, this is not a Christian game, but in understanding how we look at mythology, you know, can help us look at our own understanding of faith and scripture. I dare say that Skyrim is more than vaguely pagan, but yeah, a lot of Christian games can be pretty hokey or pretty sort of ham-handed. So the first one, Crusader Kings may or may not count as a game for Spirituality Thursday. I don't know if it counts as a Christian game per se, but the very first game we played that was a Christian game explicitly was Captain Bible and the Dome of Darkness. That game is exactly as bad as it sounds on like every level. But other games we've played include... You know, I'm just going to leave you alone. I'll run away. You'll leave me alone. Everything will be fine. Other games we've played have included Braid, which has a great look at sort of purpose in life and just beauty in the metaphorical storytelling. We did Baba Is You to talk about ontology. So, yeah. Spirituality Thursday, we do all sorts of fun things. Like run away from people who were trying to murderate us. Yeah, Baba Is You is essentially... Have not done Plague Tale. I might have to add that to the list. But yeah, when the game Baba Is You is literally just like, cool, use these phrases to mess with the ontological nature of this world. It's a great opportunity to talk about what ontology is philosophically and theologically, and why it matters.
I signed on because I couldn't watch the Stormcloaks tearing
Hello,
everything
fellow
apart, not
Imperials.
something. Most of my family disagrees with me.
The Legion's always looking for strong, capable warriors. I think you've got what it takes.
Yeah, Baba Is You is a tricky mind-bending game. Yeah. Even at the best of times. That was actually very early on. That was the second Spirituality Thursday game we played. What? No. No. You brought this on yourself. I did not seek to attack you. This is self-defense. Let's get a little more magic. Because we do use a lot of like healing and... I think we're using mostly heavy armor right now. Plague Tale is very fun. Inquisition events, histories. Oh yeah, that would be interesting. Talk about the history of the Inquisition. That is a complicated subject, admittedly, historically speaking. But I suppose Monty Python was right. No one can escape the Spanish Inquisition, and no one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Yeah, I'd be curious to see how they handled that. The complicated nature of it in the game. Is Plague Tale, is that the one where you can control the rats? Is that the one I'm thinking of? Or is that a different game? Avoid rats by using light and fire. Okay, that is the game I was thinking of. Yeah, I'll have to look into that, do some research. Hail and well met, good soldier. So many flowers. Let's find out what some of these flowers do. This is one of my favorite things about Skyrim is it's like, oh, we have this ingredient. Let's find out what it does. Let's eat it. And all these effects hit us. There's rogue bishop seeking his own power and doing it in the name of the Inquisition. There's even a scene where a Vatican delegate is visiting the bishop to try and figure out what he's up to. Oh, interesting. Apostolic visitations. No, I am... So I do work for Busted Halo. It's like a ministry organization. But in terms of this, I am on my own when it comes to like what games I'm allowed to play. I have some rules. So like I do personally vet the games. I do a lot of them I've played either before or have watched enough to know generally how it handles certain things. I try to avoid M-rated games. I know I say that while I'm playing Skyrim. But we are kind of avoiding the M-rated things of Skyrim. Because I want to keep this project accessible. You know, not necessarily family friendly in a sense of like remaining G, but you know, as the rules say for the chat, remaining PG-13. Having a broader accessibility. Well, mines aren't going to have any books. That's not helpful.
What could it mean? Return of the Dragonborn? Who among us could possibly hold that on?
I think the M-rated things in Skyrim are there's some prostitution references, and then there's skooma. I think those are what give it its M rating for sure. The owner of this house is very boring. He has no books. But like there's a whole skooma den side quest, I think, if I remember correctly. But, you know, there's just skooma in general, which is a massive narcotic drug. That tends to get you an M rating. This city is really beautiful. I love its design. The, like, carved out of the mountains, the water running right through it. Skooma is complicated because you can... It does have some very good short-term effects in the game. But you can become addicted to it, and that becomes a problem. And gives you penalties.
What are you hiding, priest?
I'm not hiding anything. It's closed for a reason.
Yeah, not messing with drugs. I think just not messing with drugs in general is probably a good idea. I'm not sitting in a chair called the Mournful Throne. That just sounds like I'm asking for trouble.
No trespassing here.
On
You better
Dolimar is
clear
the
out.
commander of the Thalmor in Markar.
I suppose that's one way to run an economy, Gale.
Halt. The Dwemer Museum isn't open to anyone without the court wizard's permission.
Okay.
Until next time. Aye, now that's some fine armor. Good old-fashioned steel.
Ah, Dwarf Fortress. I remember trying to run that on my laptop in college, and
See that orc over in Understone Keep.
my laptop was nowhere near powerful enough for it.
You don't know anything about this house.
Well, this was largely a bust. Someone died here. I'm not asking questions.
This is Markarth, traveler. Safest city in the Reach.
Well, let's make our way to Falconreath, although we could probably teleport to Bleak Falls Barrow. Well, okay, yes. Because of how it's coded, no computer is powerful enough, but also my cheap college laptop was definitely not powerful enough to run it. Like, I think World Generation alone took 45 minutes. Gale has told me about some of the dwarf fortresses they have made, and it sounds ridiculous. And then there's something about cotton candy and clowns that's come up before around Dwarf Fortress in this chat. It's surprising to me that Dwarf Fortress is something I never intend to play on this stream, and yet it manages to find its way into chat. Mayor Necromancer. Look, you cannot stop the mayor. The mayor will reign supreme. Alright, good to see you, Squirrelich. Aha, falconry. I seem to remember there being a pretty nice castle here. I feel like they'll have books. What are you doing, goat? That is not how we run. I'm going the wrong way. Oh, this is it. This is... Maybe I'm thinking of... I think I'm thinking of the other city. Yeah, I think I'm thinking of Riften. Well, we have somewhere to head to next time, I guess. But maybe this place will still have some books.
I protect the Jarl, whoever that might be.
Oh. There are books under there. But I can't get in there because it's locked, and that would be stealing. And this character doesn't do that. You had a fortress where you successfully converted every living dwarf in your fortress to a werewolf. That would be an unpleasant surprise for each visitor every month.
I'm the steward here. I serve under Jarl Siggeir and Jarl Dengir before him.
Death Blow of Abernanet. Well, that's not on the list. I bet it increases our block, so... that is one way to heal your problems, I suppose. Become a were animal. Oh shoot, I thought you'd be sleeping. No, I just wanted mammoth cheese. No, I do not want to participate in Skyrim space program today. I don't know if y'all have ever seen those videos where a giant hits the player character and they go flying into space because Skyrim physics is great. Gotta run for president on a werewolf program. Well, the price of silver is about to increase, so I guess that's what I'm going to invest in. A priest brother of mine has a vampire hunting kit. I wonder if he has a werewolf hunting one as well. Ah! That thing hit like a truck. Run. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. No, everything's fine. I'll just out mountain goat it. Oh, I'm still wearing my robes. I forgot to put my armor back on. Well, a wooden stake is ultimately an effective weapon regardless of what you're fighting, be it supernatural or not. Really pretty moon. Beautiful texture. I think one of the most interesting takes on a moon... Ah! Okay, this time I have armor, though. In fiction. is the null moon in Magic the Gathering on Dominaria. It was originally a giant ship designed to steal sort of the magic of the world. Ooh, that thing ate my face. But through a series of events, it winds up getting empty and is caught in the sky so high up that it looks like it's a moon. And for centuries, people are just like, yeah, it's a moon. We're about to increment the death counter. Increment it, we have. But I think that's actually going to be a good place to call it. We'll make a second attempt to make it back to Riften next week. Oh, well, not next week, but. So thank you so much to everyone for tuning in to Let Us Play. I've been your host, Father Evan. Join us again on Monday for more Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. That game's starting to get really weird. We're in the fun part of the plot. Tuesday, we'll be doing more Kirby Superstar. Then I'm actually going on personal retreat, so I won't be around next Thursday, and I won't be back Monday, which means another week without Ys, unfortunately, but we'll be back the following Tuesday with more Kirby Superstar, and then it's Thanksgiving, taking Thanksgiving off. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving if you celebrate that here in America. And then I promise we'll have one more stream of Skyrim before the end of the month. It's just, it'll take a while. So, Ys is cursed, but we keep playing it anyway because I love it. But good to have you all. Hope everyone has a great rest of their day, great weekend. Take care, and God bless.